Okay, so welcome, I'm Benny from Jellyflix, and today I'm going to show you quickly how to mount your HD Hero Pro to your helmet and to your bicycle. Tomorrow we're doing a ride for the Brisbane flood appeal with Lance Armstrong, that's right, and Robbie McEwen. So it's the only way so far I've been able to help. So let's get into it. To start with, I've got two HD Hero Pros, sorry. In this case I'm using the mount on the helmet. So if you can see here, you've got the simple straps that run through the helmet and then fixed back on there. Now it's not glued or anything, it's just strapped on there. And as you can see, it's pretty secure. Now I've also got on here part of a mount from the chest strap. Now the chest strap I'm talking about is this contraption. You wear this like a harness, similar to a backpack setup, and it needs this piece here to really place the camera in the adequate position to shoot film. So we're not using that. We're going to use the bracket off it though, because it sits the camera ideally on the helmet and not too close to it in this case. So a couple of things to consider when mounting it to your helmet. First thing is security. So you want to make sure it's not going to fall off, right? Because you know these cameras aren't cheap. Obviously, you don't want to have to be running around trying to pick the thing up off the road in pieces while you're on a ride. So make sure your straps are nice and tight. There's a couple of clips there that are fairly secure. I've tested. I've given it a good shake and tried to pull it apart, but it doesn't seem to give. So that's a good sign. If you were really worried, might put a bit of extra tape on it or some lock wire around the mount. So just a metal stainless wire just to really lock it onto the helmet in case something happens and you're worried that it's going to disappear. I have had one disappear before off a motorcycle, and you know, they're not cheap. So anyway, the other thing to consider is the angle at which the film's going to be picked up. So for example, if I had this helmet on, just do it up, you know, you're not going to be standing like this on the bike, okay? The camera's not going to be pointing at the sky as it is here. You can see the angle's probably, you know, a bit wrong for this position, but if you consider that, you'll be on the bike, bent over, head down most of the time with your eyes up to see your position. The camera's in probably a pretty good position. Now, the best way to try and work this out is if you've got someone to help, grab them, just have a look, record some video of you sitting on the bike, ride around the block, do it that way, or use a mirror. In my case, I've used a mirror. I'm pretty confident because the HD Hero has an exceptionally wide viewing angle. Then I'm going to pick up what I need to. I use this similar sort of angle on my motorbike quite often. My motocross helmet sitting out here, and well, it looks like we've got mail. And it seems to work fine. So don't be too fussed about the angle, but if you can test it, please do. Download the file, have a bit of a look, see if the angle's right. If not, move it around, see what you can do. During the ride I plan to turn this camera around as well, so this bracket's quite easy. Obviously just undo the turn barrel here, switch the camera around on the bracket, and then do it back up. So that's what we'll be using tomorrow. Hopefully we'll pick up a bit of footage of Lance. We'll try and keep with him. We don't know how vigorous he's going to be going after a 5-day tour of Adelaide, but we'll certainly do our best anyway. So next I'm going to show how we've done the setup actually on the bike and what you need to consider when you're doing that. Okay, so as you can see, I've got the other HD Pro Hero that I've got here on the back of the bicycle. I think it's going to be good to pick up the traffic behind me. I'm not saying that there's going to be much of it, but for the occasions where there are people behind me, we should be able to pick some up. I'm going with a few mates, so I'm sure they want to get their mugs on the film. Things to consider when you're doing this. I always find it's nice to pick up part of the machinery. So what I mean is, what I've got here, I've got the camera angled at such that I can pick up the tyre in the shot. Now that, you know, that adds a bit of perspective to the shot, shows the speed. Occasionally you see the rim actually flexing on these bikes a little bit, and just because of the position of the lens on the HD Pro, you will find you pick up some spoke movement as well. I've just used the normal seat post mount here with the extension, just to get it away from the seat a bit. You'll find that it'll absorb a bit more shock too if you use a few of the mounts, the extension arm, rather than bolting it straight to the post, because the plastic has a little bit of give in it. Things to consider, as I mentioned, you don't want it anywhere near the rim. You definitely don't want it anywhere near your pedal travel. So I've checked all that. It doesn't extend outside the movement of my feet or any other part of the bike. So mounting wise, that's great. I'll probably change it throughout the day. We're out on a couple of hour rides, so when we do stop, I might change it and shoot downwards here. I might move the lens across a bit just to pick up a bit of chain and sprocket action. There's some stuff that we can edit into the film later just to make it a bit interesting to see the mechanics and how the stuff works. Because of the type of ride we're doing, I'm going to make sure that I've got a frame rate and a resolution that's adequate for what I'm shooting today. Tomorrow, but so I did a bit of a test before, and I ran the camera in the 3 different HD modes, just to see what it picks up, and I just measured it against what the sprocket and the wheel turning. I've got another bike over there on a static trainer, and I just turned the wheel. I held the camera quite close and just tried it on the R3, R4 and R5 settings. So the R3 setting, you've got 720 resolution at 60 frames per second. The next setting we've got there, the R4, is the 920, I think, 960 resolution, but at 30 frames per second. And then the full HD of 1080 at also 30 frames per second. So I found that the 720 resolution with a 60 frames per second is ideal for this, because there's a lot of moving parts, and you want to be able to slow some of those shots down and pick up, the intricacies of the gear sets and the spokes, and there'll be a lot of movement in these shots. So while the resolution is important, 720 is still very high, remember. What's more important to me here is the frame rate, because I want to be able to pick up the detail of the shot, and the movements, and probably going to run a lot of slow-mo footage back through Final Cut Pro to get a product out of what we're going to do tomorrow. So there's a couple of things we considered. You can mount this up on the gooseneck here. I did try that mount and ran it today. Pointed it back at myself. It's okay. It's pretty boring, to be honest. I mean, you want to get a couple of shots of that, maybe 30 seconds of yourself pedaling away and sweating on the camera, but to be honest, you're not going to get a lot of footage there that's going to be any different than what you can produce in 30 seconds. So there's not much point in putting it up there for long. I'll probably switch it up there maybe for, like I said, the first 30 seconds of the ride, and I'll stop and I'll just whack it back out here. It only takes a minute at most to move the camera around. There are a couple other options to mount the camera, but again, you have to be very careful that you're not going to get it in the way of any of the mechanics of the bike, the mechanics of yourself while you're trying to pedal away. And cause yourself any danger, obviously. Now there's a lot of cables and that sort of thing running around the frame on these bikes. You don't want to get in the way of that stuff with the clamps. So that's it. So anyway, we'll run it tomorrow. We'll see how we come up with, and we'll post a bit of a film up on YouTube hopefully by the end of next week to see how it all came out. Ta.